Image prompt. I never thought I'd stand at the altar in someone else's skin, vowing forever to a man who wasn't mine. All because Evelyn Hargrove decided my life was hers for the taking. But there I was, heart pounding like a war drum, staring into Jake's eyes, my Jake. Or at least the ones I'd loved for 5 years, while her venomous soul twisted inside me like a knife. And in that moment, as the priest droned on about eternal bonds, I whispered a promise not to him, but to the mirror I'd shattered last night. I'd make her pay, body and soul, even if it damned us both. The wine hit like liquid fire, soaking through silk and staining her perfect day red, and the room gasped as Evelyn's handiwork splashed across the bodice. Her accidental, poor drawing first shocked whispers, then outright fury from the guests who'd flown in from coast to coast. But I didn't flinch. I smiled that porcelain smile she'd practiced for decades, because deep down, in the marrow of this stolen flesh, I knew this was just the opening act of the revenge she'd never see coming. Oops, she purred from my lips. But it was me thinking it, me. Ella. The ghost in her machine, plotting how to drag her empire down brick by blood-soaked brick. What no one knew, not even Jake as he rushed forward with napkins and apologies, was that Evelyn hadn't just ruined a dress, she'd confessed everything on that hidden camera I'd rigged in her penthouse mirror. Her slurred admissions spilling out like the Cabernet now dripping from my chin, admissions of swapped lives, buried sins, and the hit she'd ordered on my family to cover it all up. And as the string quartet faltered into awkward silence, I reached into my bouquet, fingers brushing the phone that held her undoing, ready to hit play and watch her world burn. The morning after the swap, God, even thinking it sounds like some bad sci-fi flick. But it was real as the cold sweat soaking through sheets that smelled like Chanel No. 5 and regret. I woke up in Evelyn's body, staring at a ceiling painted like a Renaissance fresco in her sprawling Manhattan penthouse. Her hands, elegant and veined like marble, nails manicured to razor points, trembled as I touched my face, feeling the unfamiliar lines of a woman who'd Botoxed her way into her 60s but still commanded boardrooms with a single arched brow. What the fuck? I rasped, but it came out in her clipped, East Coast drawl, all vowels flattened like roadkill on the lie. I'd been Ella Thompson, 28, a junior editor at a midtown publishing house, scraping by in a Brooklyn walk-up with dreams of my own byline and nights tangled in Jake's arms. Jake Harlan, the golden boy architect from a solid Midwest family, who'd proposed on the Brooklyn Bridge with a ring that cost more than my annual rent. We were the couple everyone envied, young, ambitious, unscarred by the cynicism that chews up New Yorkers like stale bagels. Until Evelyn. She'd slithered into our lives 2 years ago, not as the monster she was, but as the perfect mother-in-law mirage, silver hair swept into a chignon, pearls the size of quail eggs, and a laugh like tinkling crystal that masked the serpent's hiss. Jake's mom, widowed young from old money, oil fortunes in Texas, transplanted to the Upper East Side where she reigned over Hargrove Holdings, a real estate conglomerate that gobbled up blocks of the city like Pac-Man on steroids. She doted on Jake, bankrolled his firm, but me, from the jump, her eyes narrowed like she'd scented blood in the water. Darling, she'd coo over Sunday brunches at Le Bernardin. You're lovely, but Jake deserves stability. Translation, a trust fund trophy, not some ink-stained striver from flyover country. I should have seen the betrayal brewing, but love's a blindfold tighter than any silk scarf she ever knotted around her throat. The secret she buried? It started with her own flesh and blood, or lack thereof. Evelyn had a daughter once, Lydia, wild-haired and brilliant, a biochemistry prodigy who'd OD'd in a dorm room at Yale, chalked up to accidental overdose but whispered as suicide. Evelyn never recovered. She funneled her grief into Jake, molding him like clay. But the void festered. Turns out, she'd been funding black market research for years, neuroscience hacks, experimental therapies to preserve legacies, as she called it. Body-swapping tech, embryonic in some offshore lab in the Caymans, wired to map and migrate consciousness like uploading a file to the cloud. Insane? Yeah. But Evelyn Hargrove didn't do insane. She did inevitable. The crime I bore? It was hers, pinned on me like a scarlet letter. 5 months ago, during a girls' weekend she insisted on, spa in the Hamptons. Her treat, I woke up groggy from whatever she'd spiked my mimosa with, head throbbing like a jackhammer on concrete. By dawn, paramedics were wheeling out a body bag from the guest cottage, mine, or what was left of it, staged as a drowning in the pool. Autopsy? Accidental overdose on antidepressants, they ruled, because she'd planted the pills, forged the prescriptions, even hacked my emails to seed a narrative of depressive spiral. Jake mourned me for weeks, a ghost haunting his loft, while I, trapped in her shell, watched from afar, screaming silently as she consoled him, whispering, "She wasn't right for you, son. Now we can move on." Why me? The secret unraveled in fragments, pieced together from her voicemails and the encrypted drive I cracked on her laptop. Lydia's death wasn't suicide, it was murder. Evelyn's doing, to silence her daughter's whistleblowing on Hargrove Holdings' dirty deals, bribing inspectors, evicting families into the streets for luxury condos, even a cover-up on a building collapse that killed 3 immigrant workers. Lydia had the evidence, a flash drive hidden in a safety deposit box, and Evelyn couldn't risk it. So she drowned her own blood in a tub, much like she'd planned for me, the perfect patsy, the nobody fiancé who cracked under pressure, taking the fall for a corporate scandal that could have tanked her empire. But I didn't crack. Holed up in her penthouse, playing the grieving matriarch, canceling meetings with a husky family emergency, I dug. Her world was a fortress of NDAs and private jets. But cracks show if you know where to tap. I found the lab logs first. Emails to a DR. Voss in Georgetown. Transfer complete. Subject compliant. Then the real gut punch. The video diary on her hidden server. Evelyn pre-swap, monologuing to her reflection like a Bond villain. "Ella's expendable," she sneered, adjusting her pearls. "She'll carry the weight of Lydia's sins, my sins, and I'll live on in peace, raising my boy right." No more loose ends. Rage boiled in me, hot as Texas asphalt, but I played it cool. Controversial decision number 1. I didn't rush to Jake. No tearful, "It's me, baby," over burnt diner coffee. Instead, I let her, me, ghost through his grief, sending flowers and sympathetic texts from my old number, which she'd commandeered. I needed time to weaponize the truth, to build the trap. I hired a fixer off the dark web, a ex-NSA ghost named Marco, who for $50K in crypto siphoned from her slush fund, rigged bugs in her, my offices, and a deepfake filter to mimic her voice on calls. Evelyn became the puppet. Ella, the puppeteer. As weeks blurred into a haze of high society funerals and therapy sessions, I faked through gritted teeth. Jake started dating again. Not some floozy, but Sarah. His college ex, blonde, pedigreed, the kind Evelyn would have approved. It gutted me, watching from afar as she encouraged it over martinis at the Polo Lounge. But pain's a forge, and mine hammered out steel. I leaked anonymous tips to the Times about Hargrove's eviction scams, stirring the pot without boiling over. Protests popped up outside her towers, signs screaming, "Blood on your bricks." She, trapped in my body, oblivious in some cryogenic limbo the lab had her in, must have been raging in the dark. The wedding loomed like a guillotine. Jake's rebound with Sarah fizzled. Too vanilla. He confided to me over whiskey sours and suddenly, he was proposing to.
Well,
Her.
me.
Evelyn's body, primed for the aisle in a Vera Wang gown that cost more than my old salary. I said yes. Because why not? It was the perfect stage. All of Manhattan's elite. Her board, her rivals, crammed into the plaza's grand ballroom. Controversial? Hell yes. Marrying your dead fiancé sorta mom? The tabloids would feast. But it bought me proximity, access to her vaults, her whispers. Rehearsal dinner at Per Se, I sat across from Jake, his hand on my knee, and fought the urge to spill it all. Instead, I smiled, clinked glasses, and slipped a micro SD into his pocket. Insurance. A clip of her confession edited to sound like a pep talk. Trust me, I murmured, her voice silk over shards. He nodded, eyes soft with that love I'd earned in dive bars and dawn runs. That night, alone in the bridal suite, I stared at the mirror, her face mocking me, and plotted the spill. The day of, as the organ swelled and vows echoed off gilded walls, I felt her stirring. Faint, like a bad dream, a twitch in my fingers, a whisper in my skull. The swap wasn't permanent. Voss's tech had a half-life, a reversion window of 6 months. She was clawing back. Panic spiked, but I channeled it. The reception, toasts, cake cutting, the quartet's swing into at last. Then Evelyn's best friend, Margot, handed me the flute, her ritual pour. For luck, I took it, raised it high, and tripped, the crimson arc perfect, soaking the bodice in a Rorschach of ruin. Gasps rippled. Jake surged forward.
Mom.
What the? But I held up a hand, her manicured fingers steady. It's fine, darling. Just a little.
Spill.
Eyes locked on Margot's, Evelyn's proxy. I pulled the phone from my bouquet, thumb hovering over play. The video, her face, pre-swap, slurring truths in that penthouse mirror. I killed Lydia. Drowned the little bitch to save the company.
Ella?
She's next, framed her good. The junkie whore. Now I get her life. Her man. Clean slate. The room froze as tinny audio filled the air. Whispers turned to horror. Jake's face drained white.
Mom.
What is this? I let it roll. Her confessions unspooling. The bribes. The bodies. The swap. Sirens wailed distant. Marco's tip to Enway. Timed, perfect. As cuffs clicked on Margot, holding the line for her, I leaned into Jake, whispering, "It's me, baby."
Ella.
She's been lying since the Hamptons. He recoiled, then clutched me her tight.
How?
God.
How?
But belief flickered. That SD clip had primed him. Chaos erupted. Guests fleeing. Reporters swarming paparazzi barriers. Evelyn's empire cracked. Stocks tanking on live feeds. And me? I felt her scream inside. A psychic wail as reversion accelerated. Pain lanced my skull, Hours, like lightning in veins. But the night's young.
And revenge?
It's a marathon, not a sprint. As Jake bundled me into a town car, away from the flashing lights, I gripped his hand, her rings biting my skin. One down. The real spill?
Coming soon.
The reversion hit like a freight train derailing in my chest, ribs cracking under the weight of two souls slamming back into their cages. We were halfway to Jake's loft, his sanctuary, all exposed brick and Eames chairs I'd picked out together. When it started, convulsions. Her body arching like a bowstring snapped, vomit rising bitter in my throat. Jake swerved the Bentley, tires screeching on rain-slicked Fifth Avenue, barking into his phone for an ambulance. Ella, Mom, fuck. Stay with me. But it wasn't staying, it was shattering. Flashes, my old body, pale and atrophied in that Cayman clinic, wired to machines like a lab rat, her essence, oily and indignant, flooding back into its husk while mine recoiled, clawing for the exit. I blacked out to sirens and the acrid stink of her perfume mingling with my sweat, our sweat, waking in a sterile ER bay at Mount Sinai. Jake's face hovering like a halo over fluorescent buzz. Ella, he whispered, voice cracking like he'd aged a decade in hours. The doctors. They said it's you. Scans match. But how? I squeezed his hand. Mine again, calloused from subway straps and laptop keys. Not her talon-like grip, and croaked the truth in gulps, the spiked drink, the staged death, the swap. He listened, eyes glazing with that mix of love and lunacy you see in war vets recounting hell.
She.
My own mother. The betrayal landed like a gut punch, deeper than any I'd borne. Evelyn had poisoned his cradle with her protection, grooming him to inherit her tainted throne while burying her sins under layers of privilege. The hidden secret? Not just Lydia's murder, but Jake's unwitting role. As a teen, he'd overheard her plotting the cover-up, dismissed it as business talk, but she'd gaslit him into silence with boarding schools and blind trusts. He'd carried that guilt like a stone, never knowing it was complicity. NYPD swarmed by dawn, detectives with Brooklyn accents and coffee breath grilling me through morphine haze. MS. Thompson, you're legally dead. We'll need DNA. Psych evals, the works. Controversial decision, too. I lawyered up, not with her Shark Tank firm, but a pro bono firebrand from the ACLU. A Latina spitfire named Rosa who'd sued slumlords for breakfast. This ain't just assault, she growled, pacing my room like a caged panther. It's identity theft. Murder 1. Corporate conspiracy. We're flipping the script, sue the empire. Expose the lab. Jake nodded, but his eyes held doubt. Loving a resurrected fiancé meant tabloid hell. Family schisms. What if they say you're crazy? That it's all a grief hallucination? Let 'em, I shot back. Fire in my veins. I've got the video. Her words, her face. And backups. Marco's got servers in Iceland. But doubt gnawed at me too. Evelyn wasn't done. Her power was a hydra. Heads multiplying in boardrooms and backrooms. Whispers reached me via Rosa, Hargrove Holdings in freefall. Shares down 40%. But proxies circling. Buying low. And her? Released on bail, $50 million. Pocket change, holed up in a Hamptons bunker. Lawyered to the hilt, spinning it as extortion by a deranged ex. My death was being exhumed as fraud. My return a hoax. The press ate it up. Zombie bride seeks revenge. Or is it Munchausen by proxy? We holed up in Jake's loft. A fortress of takeout Thai and locked doors. while the world outside bayed. Protests swelled, not just against Hargrove evictions now, but swap the rich. Viral fury at the 1%'s immortality hacks. Late-night MSNBC panels debated, is body swapping the new frontier of inequality, or science fiction gone mad? I watched from the couch, Jake's arm heavy around me,
His warmth a lifeline.
but nights brought nightmares, her face superimposed on mine. Sneering, you think you won? I made him. I'll unmake you both. The counterattack came swift, mired in controversy. Evelyn's spin doctors leaked therapy tapes, deepfakes. Marco confirmed, her voice over my face, confessing to faking my death for insurance money. Jake's family fractured. His aunt from Dallas wired a check with a note. Blood's thicker.
Son.
She's poison. He burned it, but the seed took root. One night, over bourbon neat, he cracked. What if? Part of it's true. You survived something insane. But Mom, she's always been my rock. I slapped him, hard, the crack echoing like gunfire. Your rock? She drowned her daughter.
Jake.
Framed me for it. And you? You're next if you waver. He apologized, tears streaking, but the rift festered. Meanwhile, I plodded deeper, tapping Marco for dirt. Turns out, the lab wasn't Cayman's only, stateside ties to Big Pharma. FDA bribes buried in PAC donations. Evelyn's endgame? Not just escape justice, immortality for her bloodline. Jake was the vessel, unknowingly dosed with supplements to prep his neural map. The crime I'd borne extended, her sins.
Yes.
But now his future, stolen in utero by a grandmother's greed. Climax brewed at the preliminary hearing. Federal courthouse in Foley Square. A circus of cameras and chants. I took the stand in jeans and a blazer, my armor, not her Chanel, and played the video unedited. Her slurs booming through speakers. Lydia knew too much. Those workers' families. The collapsed tenement. I held her under till the bubbles stopped. Ella's the fall guy. Weak. No one'll miss her. Gasps. Then pandemonium. Evelyn, across the aisle in pearls and a sheath dress, met my eyes cold, unyielding, mouthing, you'll regret this, girl. But the twist hit mid-testimony. Voss, her pet scientist, flipped. Subpoenaed and scared shitless. He testified via video link. Pixelated from witness protection. The reversion. It's incomplete. Residual engrams, memories bleeding over. My blood ran cold. Flashes I dismissed as stress, her recipes, her hatreds, seeping into me like ink in water. MS. Thompson may exhibit traits. Dissociative episodes. The courtroom buzzed. Jake's face fell. Doubt hardening to fear. Was I me? Or her echo? Evelyn's lawyer pounced. Your Honor. This victim is unstable, potentially dangerous. Controversy exploded. Headlines screamed, body snatched bride, real or relapse. Protesters outside split, Justice Varela versus Free Evelyn. The latter bankrolled by her cronies. I stormed out, Jake trailing, our fight spilling into the rain. You believe them? After everything? He grabbed my arm.
Desperate.
I believe you. But Ella. Sometimes you look at me like she did. Calculating. That night. Alone. I rated her. My lingering effects. A vial from her vanity. Labeled stabilizer. One dose. And the fog lifted. Her whispers fading. But the cost? accelerated aging. Voss warned, her body had been ravaged by the tech. Cancers blooming like weeds. My borrowed time.
Ticking.
Revenge's high is fleeting, the drop. Brutal. As Evelyn's trial loomed, Rico charges stacking like Jenga, I uncovered the final secret, Lydia's drive. Not destroyed, but digitized and hidden in Jake's childhood home safe. Coordinates texted anonymous. Texas Ranch. Under floorboards. Controversial decision 3. I go alone. No dragging him into her grave. Road trip, I told him, kissing his forehead. Back before arraignment. The drive south was purgatory. Endless interstates. Podcasts on true crime to steal my nerves. Amarillo's dust devils mirrored my whirl. Her memories surfacing unbidden. Lydia's laughter. Then gurgles. I arrived at dusk. The ranch a ghost of weathered wood and oil derricks. Key under the mat like she'd planned. Safe cracked easy, combo her wedding date, and there, the drive. Files spilling horrors. Photos of the tenement collapse. Emails to fixers. Lydia's frantic notes. Mom's a monster. The swaps, testing on homeless first. Jake next. But the real bomb, a letter. Lydia's script. If you're reading this, she's won. But no, the tech needs an anchor blood tie. She chose Ella because
She's family.
your aunt's girl. Hidden adoption. You're her granddaughter. Jake's cousin once removed. She wanted to save you both. Merge legacies. Run. World inverted. Betrayal's abyss yawned. Evelyn hadn't just stolen my life, she'd engineered ours. A twisted family tree pruned for her harvest. I drove back north. Drive clutched like a grenade. Evelyn's arraignment the fuse. The arraignment was theater gone feral, Foley Square thrumming with helicopters and hate. Metal detectors beeping like accusations. Evelyn glided in, unbowed, flanked by suit sharper than switchblades. Her smile a scalpel's edge as she pleaded not guilty to a litany, manslaughter, fraud, conspiracy, like it was a grocery list. I sat front row, Jake's hand limp in mine, the drive burning a hole in my purse. Rosa leaned in. Drop it now. And she folds. But that blood tie? It'll gut him. Gut it already. I'd told him on the flight back. Private jet. Her dime. Irony's bitter pill. Lydia's letter unfolding like origami from hell. His face, shock. Then nausea. Then that Harlan Steele. Cousin? Granddaughter?
She.
Bred us. No wonder her fixation. We'd been pawns in her immortality chess. Me the disposable queen. He raged. Smashed a glass. Then held me till dawn. Whispering, doesn't change us. You're my Ella always. But trust's fragile as spun sugar. Her engrams lingered in us both. Doubts like weeds. Courtroom air thick as fog. Judge, a grizzled Irishman named O'Connor, banged gavel for order. Evelyn's eyes found mine, triumphant, until I rose. Your Honor. New evidence. Gasps as I slotted the drive into Rosa's laptop. Files projecting on screens, collapse blueprints fudged. Payoffs to cops. Lydia's autopsy, bruises on her arms. Not accidental. Then the letter. Scanned and stark. Mom killed me. And the swaps? She's planning one for Jake, his mind in a clone. Her forever young. Pandemonium. Evelyn lunged. Snarling. Lies. That girl's a fabrication. But Voss's testimony corroborated. Anchors required genetic compatibility. Harlan blood was ideal. Jake bolted. face ashen, colliding with bailiffs in the aisle. I chased, but she, Evelyn, laughed, a cackle echoing over the din. You think this ends me? Hargrove's bigger than one woman. They'll bury you both.
Outside.
Rain lashed like judgment, Jake retching into a planter. Everything. Tainted. I held him. But the controversial choice loomed. Mercy or massacre. Leak the full archive, expose not just her, but the board's complicity. Tanking pensions. Jobs. The economy's dominoes, or targeted strike. Her alone? Protests raged dual-sided, unions decrying corporate witch hunt, victims' families chanting my name. I chose the blaze. Anonymous upload to WikiLeaks at midnight. Files cascading global. Fallout seismic. By morning, Hargrove's C-suite arrested en masse. SEC raids on Dawn News. Evelyn's bunker breached. Her suicide watch a farce. She'd swallowed pills, but survived. Vegetative.
Iron es cruel jest.
Jake and I, we vanished to his cabin upstate. Adirondacks hush a bomb. But the twist reversed it all. Engrams didn't fade. Hers and me, manifesting as urges, power plays. A hunger for the skyline I'd once fled. In him, paranoia. Are you? Plotting. We'd fight. Make up savage. Love like it was the last war. Ending? Debatable as dawn. Happy. If you count justice, her empire ashes. Lydia's family's compensated from seized assets. Swaps banned by emergency FDA decree. Tragic. In the scars, Jake's therapy endless. My mirror checks ritual. Fearing her ghost. We married quiet. Courthouse steps in jeans. Rings simple as vows. But as snow fell that winter, her whisper echoed faint. Blood calls to blood. Was it victory? Or just the swap's long shadow? You decide.
Me?
I live.
Breathe.
Revenge's embers warm but not consuming.
For now.